Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of Compassion and Courage Conversations in Healthcare. I'm your host, Marcus Engel, and this is the podcast that teaches compassionate communication, provides perspective, and inspires resilience. Please be sure to do all those social media boosting things like subscribing and hitting the like button, et cetera, et cetera. We appreciate you all. Today, I am really excited to bring to you my special guest. Her name is Jennifer Krippner. Hi, Jennifer. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, hello, Marcus. It's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Sure. And Jennifer, just to give a little bit of your background here, and feel free to chime in whenever I get off of anything, but your position is the Chief Experience Officer for the Institute of Healthcare Excellence. You've got 20 years in working in hospitals with community engagement and physician development and volunteer services, I believe. And so I guess the question that I would ask you is kind of starting at the beginning. Did you always think that you would be in healthcare, or what was your journey to get into the world of healthcare?
Oh, that's so long ago, but yes, such a great question. I always wanted to be in healthcare. It's something that just giving back to the community seemed so important to me from my college days and interning throughout my college life. And then starting with the March of Dimes, actually, in a nonprofit and having a son that was born premature. And so starting off in healthcare and wanting to give back to the people that cared for my son from the beginning.
Beautiful. My stepson was also born quite premature. How is your son now? Did any kind of lingering effects from that?
You know, the first year obviously was a tough one, in and out of the hospital and working with a lot of care teams, physicians, and nurses. He's 27 years old now and he's doing wonderful. So he's
Beautiful.
about to experience the birth of his own baby. So,
Oh, excellent. Will this be your
yes,
first grandbaby?
it will. We're
Oh,
really excited.
congratulations.
Yes.
Congratulations. I hope
Thank
you
you.
enjoy that so much.
Yes, we're looking forward to it.
So you had some personal experience here as the family of a patient, and especially as the a new mother of a baby that was scary, right? I mean, scary times during
Very
that.
scary.
What did you? I always say, with my experience, you see the good and the bad, and I'm sure that you saw both the good and the bad over your time of his hospitalization.
Hmm.
Um, how did that, and that led you to the March of Dimes?
Yeah, I had some interaction with the March of Dimes, while I was pregnant. Before that, I was on bed rest, so knew of them and really felt like I was called to work for them as well. So, really important mission. They had developed a drug called surfactant that my son had received at birth, which really helped his lungs develop and, be able to breathe on his own. And so giving back to the March of Dimes and working with them and for them was really important to me. So
That's
the connection there was really strong.
yeah. When the heart has been helped, the heart wants to help more.
Correct. And so, working, obviously the physicians and nurses that cared for him were incredible. They were amazing, but nobody really prepares you when you go to deliver your baby that you're going to be discharged before your baby is. And so, it was really a tough thing as a new mom to leave the hospital without your baby.
Certainly. I cannot imagine that. I always say that I would much rather go through what I went through 10 times over
Hmm.
than ever have to spend a moment in the skin of my parents, right? A parent with
Right.
a sick child like that is it's
Yeah,
it's a really, really vulnerable position.
it is.
Well, I'm glad to know he's doing well. And so you went from March of Dimes then into work inside of a hospital?
I did. A really exciting role. We were bringing in a new marketing and community team to build an inside organization within a health system and create a health system in a community in which I lived. And so I joined that team and just grew in my positions, really helping the healthcare team become part of the community and really grow its brand and grow its presence and awareness of all the great things that they offered.
So that's kind of some PR in there as
Correct.
well, right?
Yes, yes.
That's a different side of healthcare than we typically think of, although it's so important building those bridges with community and community leaders and
Right.
members of the community.
Yes, and we're talking back in the 90s, quite a
Mhm.
long time ago, at the early part of my career. And I think from there, I just grew into really wanting to help physicians grow their practices, understand what it means to truly be part of the community and learn how to build that loyalty into what they offer as far as their services go, and really saw and found a niche within my own career in helping them understand perhaps where the gaps were in what they wanted out of their career and what the health system supported them in.
And so, what kind of gaps did you help to fill in?
Yeah, so really helping them, learn from what what the health systems offered as far as getting them out in their community and understanding and meeting with other providers to learn like what their specialties offered, creating more of an outreach to primary care physicians with super subspecialist physicians so that they could learn from one another, helping physicians meet the community, perhaps in social settings so that they can get to know them and build relationships. So for me, it was always about the relationships and understanding and getting to meet them. And typically back then, there really weren't great opportunities for physicians to see patients outside of the four walls of the exam room. And so that was seemed like a really great opportunity to humanize physicians and nurses as people.
When I'm working with hospitals, a lot of times we all know that the physicians and surgeons set the tone and the culture a lot of times, or they're a big driving force of the culture within a hospital healthcare system. How do you how do you do that? How do you get the docs to say, yes, I want to go out in the community. I'm open to this, as opposed to I feel like these days everybody in healthcare is so short staffed and so short on time that to do any extras seems like a Herculean task. Did you have any resistance with docs going out in the community, and I assume doing talks for community organizations, et cetera?
Well, yes, we're all busy
Yeah,
and
right.
we all feel overwhelmed with the amount of tasks that we have in front of us. But there's also this need and this I would say driving force for each one of us to feel valued and respected, and that need for relationship as well. And if given the opportunity and you take out all the obstacles, that was my job, take the obstacles and barriers away and provide that opportunity for that physician or practitioner, clinician, to just be delivered into a setting that was set up for them, that they could then connect and have that relationship with the community or a group. Then they just thrived. They really just leaned into that experience. They were able to deliver their message, deliver that connection to that group, and they felt better because of it. Everybody felt better because of it. But as long as I could remove those obstacles and just get them into the setting, I think that was easy for them to just show up and be their best and do their best.
And that brings back to what is your passion, which is
Hmm.
relationship centered care,
It
right?
is. It
Tell me a little bit more. What does that mean to you? What does that mean to you, both as a professional and as a patient or family member of a patient?
Yeah, thanks for asking about that because I think we all say we want relationship centered care. We all think it's important, and it may mean different things to different people. Um, but I think we are all humans. And I think a lot of times we put physicians or clinicians on a pedestal and think that they just want less clicks, they want less burdensome tasks during the day. But what I think they value most, and I think what our patients value most, is to be valued, to be respected, to be trusted. And in order to be listened to, I think that's what humans want. And I think so Clinicians want that. Our patients want that. And so let's provide opportunities where everybody can have that. And that's what relationship-centered care means to me, is allowing time and space for that to happen. But in order to do that, you also need skills to be able to do that. And that's what we do at the Institute for Healthcare Excellence, is really help the clinicians develop those skills so that when they have that limited amount of time, that they're really operating at their peak performance. They're really able to listen. They're really able to be present, to be able to hone in on that relationship and get the most out of their time together.
And it's hard. It's hard, right?
It's
Because
really hard.
every doc has got, probably at least 15 regulating bodies breathing down their neck. And so to be able to put those things aside while you're in that relationship with, or while you're in the room with that patient, interacting with
Mm-hmm.
the patient, it's just absolutely vital. It's hard too. How do you encourage them to do that? Is there a skill that you could teach us today?
Absolutely. There's many skills. I think, there's kind of two upfront skills that I think are critically important to get the relationship off to a really good start. And that is one, just being present, like setting aside your distraction for the moment. If you're going to be one on one with somebody or in a small group with somebody, setting those distractions aside, being present. It seems really simple, but just, looking at that person, um, and just putting your phone aside, putting your screen aside, and paying attention to that person. And then set your listening skills up for success by not interrupting and truly listening uninterrupted for however long it takes for that person to describe what it is that they're there to talk to you about, and then reflecting back on what you heard. And I think if you can do those two things, you'll be amazed at how more efficient you are, but also how much more in tune you are with that person that you're connecting with.
Certainly, because it's going to build up more empathy in individuals when they are practicing those active listening skills. And then the witness, let me think about this. The person who's being witnessed, they feel held, they feel
Correct.
comforted to know that I actually have someone who is paying close attention to me. And that's hard these days. That's hard these days because, like I said, we're all distracted. We've all got screens and phones that are constantly
Right.
taking us out of the moment.
It is. It is difficult, but once you practice it, I challenge everybody to practice it once today with one person, and tomorrow maybe two people, and by the end of the week, if you could try it with five people, you'll be amazed at how different those relationships and interactions will go.
Interesting. Do it
Yeah.
today with one person,
Yep.
tomorrow with two, and then by the end of the week, five. I love it, love
Correct.
it, love
Yes.
it. Putting it into practice.
Putting it into practice. And one thing that we do with our clinicians when we are practicing, that is something that we absolutely do. We practice in a safe space. We practice with real scenarios, and we give them the opportunity to see what it's like from both sides. Not only practicing it, but what does it feel like on the other side,
Mm,
so that you can experience it from both sides.
And experiencing it from both sides, again, it brings up greater levels of perspective and empathy because we understand where another's pain is coming from if we can put
Mhm.
ourselves in their shoes.
Right. And like I said, what do our patients value most from us? They want to be listened to, they want to be feel like they've been heard. But also, what do we want on the other side, right? What do we want as clinicians, physicians, nurses, care teams? What do we want from our leaders? We want to feel listened to, valued. We want to feel like our voices have been heard. And so it's really a win-win for everyone.
And this is not specific to healthcare,
No, it's
right?
not. These are
This is
life
just being
skills.
human, right? Just life skills, maybe that we should have learned when we were
Yeah.
a lot younger. But
Right. I always say this is the work before any work. This is the work that we really need to do to allow all the other work move forward in a way that's going to be really transformative.
wow. So the title of the show is Compassion and
I
Courage,
do.
and I love that. I always love asking my guests if they can share a story about a time that someone was there for you or that you were there for someone else. And I'm sure that you have many stories being a patient's family member and of being a leader, etc. Are there any stories that come out to you whenever I say think of a time that someone was there for you or that you were there for someone else?
Yeah, have many stories to share. I think maybe more of a personal one that just happened recently. I was flying home from working with one of our health systems, and I was sitting at a restaurant waiting to come home on my flight, and there was this distraught woman who just plopped down next to me in the middle of, I was being busy kind of wrapping up some of the things that I needed to do, and she took a phone call and hung up the phone, and she seemed upset. And so instead of continuing eating my soup and working on my document, I actually turned to her and I said, "Is there something that I can help you with?" And she started to cry and said she wasn't sure if she was going to make it in time to her next flight to get home to see her brother before he passed away. And it just broke my heart. So I took her hand and I just said, "I'm really sorry to hear this. And just tell me about a moment of a memory of your brother and what makes him special." And I just tried to really lean in to try to understand, a connection that she had with her brother. And it was time for her to go to her gate. And so she walked to her gate, which is right nearby. And I saw her board the plane. And so I went up to the gate agent and I just told the gate agent what she really needed to be the first one off the flight in order to meet her friend to get her home to her brother. And so I just thought I'd go that extra mile and let the flight attendant know just if she got a text during the flight or what she was going through, just so that
Yeah.
everybody else could show some compassion to her.
So I spend a lot of times in airports too.
Mm-hmm.
And of course you've come across people that are flying for all number of reasons,
Mm-hmm.
of course. And so I'm trying to put myself in your position there of sitting down in a restaurant, doing your own thing, and somebody else comes along and interrupts what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
At least for me, I think my first reaction might be to get annoyed. I may not say anything to the
Yes.
person, but I might initially be like, come on here. I'm doing my thing. You don't need to be interrupted.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever you stop and ask that woman, is there something I can do to help you with? Are you okay?
Mm-hmm.
Then you hear the story, right?
Yes.
Then when you stop and actively listen, then you hear the story. And when you hear that there's a potential of death,
Mm-hmm.
it flips the switch on that annoyance. And hopefully that goes straight into compassion. It sounds like it did for you.
It sure did, and I didn't really know what to do with the information, but
Mhm.
I just knew I was sitting next to her for a reason. And we all have stories and we don't know what they are. And it really took me 5 minutes of my time to show her some compassion. And that's what she needed at that moment.
Yeah. Just
Hmm.
somebody to recognize
Hmm.
and be aware that there's suffering occurring.
Right.
That's a really beautiful story. And thank you for sharing that.
She
Did you
did
have any
follow.
follow up? Yeah.
I did. I had given her my email address, and because she's from Switzerland, she flew from Switzerland. We were in the Detroit airport. She needed to get to Phoenix, and so she did email me about a month later and say she did make it and did have a few days with him before he passed, and was very grateful. And so I was thankful she did follow up. You never know.
Hmm.
And it wasn't important to me that I knew, but I was grateful for that moment. And it just takes a moment to be compassionate towards somebody. And I think about all of our healthcare teams and how amazing they are at the daily compassion that they show our healthcare teams. And I think about the level of burnout that's going on in the country around our physicians and nurses and care teams, especially post pandemic. And I guess not even just our healthcare teams, but many, many teams across the country facing burnout. And we know a lot about it. We know a lot about burnout. And I just think about moments of pausing and being present with one another and listening to one another and the impact that compassion and courage can provide.
Yeah, the issues of burnout and compassion fatigue and time management difficulties that we see in the healthcare, those things didn't start with COVID. Of course, they were certainly present here before any of us had ever heard the term COVID. But with the exacerbation of the issues, especially with staffing these days, I everybody's wondering what's the golden ticket, right? What's the answer to fix all these problems? And I don't know if there really is an answer other than just what you said right there: stopping and being present with people, listening to other people.
Correct. I think, that's one thing that we all can do. I think the other thing that healthcare teams and something that we've been working really hard over the last probably 5 years is really taking a different approach to our team's burnout. We all know what burnout is, and we are so used to looking at each of our days from a point of deficits. Like what went wrong? What do we need to fix? What are the things that are in the way? And if we just shifted our focus a little bit, and this is what we work with our teams at healthcare systems, is actually, where are we thriving? Where are the teams that are working well together? And let's shift our focus to what's going well with them. What can we learn from them? And let's do more of that. We
What's
want more
going
of
well?
that.
Yeah, what's
Yes,
going well? Let's highlight the things that are
exactly.
going right instead of just
Yes.
talking about, beautiful, right? Not rocket
Because
science.
no, it's not, but is in healthcare, right? We're focused on sick care. We need to be focused on well care. And when we think about our teams and being compassionate towards one another, we really need to focus and look at the teams that are doing those things well and study them. And let's measure what they do well. So often I think about when we go home at the end of the day, what are the things that we're thinking about? We think about, oh, that meeting didn't go well, or oh, I had a difficult conversation with that patient or that family member, or oh, I have all those tasks that I didn't finish. I need to do those tomorrow, right? We beat ourselves up a little bit on the end of the drive home. We don't think about, oh, I had a really good conversation with that patient today. I really am going to think about what went well during that conversation. Or, oh, I led that meeting really well, and I'm really happy about, how efficient we were during that meeting. Or, boy, I got like 3 out of the 5 things done on my task list. I'm pretty proud of myself. I bet none of us go home at the end of the day thinking that way, do we?
Not typically,
Yeah,
right?
but what
Right.
if we did? What if we did? And what if we just flipped the switch on thinking about how we thrive and where we do well? And what would that do to our burnout? I just know that we could just turn up the notch on thinking from a positive emotion standpoint about hope and pride and joy and amusement. I think I just know that in our teams that we work with, when we work through these things and shift the focus to a team that's thriving, we see more of it.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So, in the time that we have left today,
Mm-hmm.
and I've loved this conversation, and I think whether you're in healthcare or not, you're going to take something away from this conversation because, again, this is humanity, right? This is not specific to
Right.
clinicians and patient doctor relationship. This is just listening to people, showing empathy, being present. So, thank you for all of those insights. In the time that we have left, can I shoot a couple of rapid fire questions past you
You
that have
bet.
nothing to do with anything clinical? These are just get to know you type things.
Sure.
So let's go back. If you could think back to when you were 16 years old,
Hmm.
you're hanging out with your friends, or it's after school, it's your after school job, or your after practice, being with your friends. What's on the radio while you're hanging out with your friends when you're 16? What are you listening to?
Oh my goodness. Um, that's so fun because I was an 80s girl.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we would probably be listening to a little Bruce Springsteen.
Hmm.
Um, boy, anything that was super popular. Probably not country, mostly pop.
Hmm.
We were cheerleaders, so we were probably on the football field or the basketball court doing cheers and
Routines
jumps and
to
routines.
nice, nice, fantastic.
Yeah.
So my second question then for you would be, if you, let's say that you are, I don't want to say banished, but you have to go live on the proverbial desert island, but it's a very well appointed desert island.
Mm.
And so you have all of your needs met, and you also get to keep one piece of art with you. Or a better question, what a way to ask this question might be, what is a piece of art that really speaks to you? Is there a book or a film or a play or piece of visual art? What's something that you would want to keep with you on your desert island?
Wow. One piece of art on a desert island. It would probably be a film. That must mean that I have some electricity. And maybe The Sound of Music.
Mm, mhm,
Hmm.
mhm. Classic every year
Classic.
coming up about this time, right?
Yes, great music, sing along.
I was so impressed a year or so ago when my grandson came home from school and he's singing several Sound of Music songs, and we got to talk about the marionette goats and
Oh,
all of
how
the things
fun.
from the iconic films. So,
That's great.
yeah. And then lastly, my question for you is, if you had the biggest billboard on the highest mountain in the world, what's the message that you would want to send to humanity?
That's easy. Have courage and be kind.
Have courage and be kind. Have
Hmm.
courage and be kind. If we do those things, we're pretty well aligned, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Wow. Well, Jennifer, I can't thank you enough for taking this time to be with me today and share your knowledge and your experiences and your work too. So thank you very much for joining me on Compassion and Courage.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful for this conversation.
Sure, and we'll link to your website and information in the show notes. And until then, everyone, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Compassion and Courage: Conversations in Healthcare. This is the podcast where we teach compassionate communication, provide perspective, and inspire resilience.